Uh, Hello, I'm Matthew E. Henry. I'm in a weird position because I have a book that came out a year and some change ago. It was my sixth collection, and I decided earlier this summer I'm done reading from that. Just some life changes, and it's like I'm kind of done reading from that book. I have another book that's coming out next spring as well, some others, and it's like I could read from that. No, so I'm going to read some poems that are some I've never read in front of anyone before. So those who have read in front of people know how terrifying that is, and a few others that are in collections in progress. I'm working on. I have 4 different manuscripts out in the world being rejected right now because that's ADHD. This is how I roll. And I feel like I should apologize in advance for those who have heard me read before. You already know. I sometimes bring the room down because I write largely from places of trauma, for lack of a better way of phrasing it. I'm black. Hello. This is not a. I'm God panned. This isn't like something different. And I'm also an educator. I've taught for 24 years now. And I also write in terms of theology and the intersection of those things. And so a lot of that will come up in various ways. This is a new poem entitled, "When Asked If, as a Veteran Teacher, I've Gotten Used to It." It says something that I no longer react to a story of a masked gunman shooting up a school, or shooting up a church, or shooting up a school that is a church, or a church within a school, or a pew's worth of children who were shot in a church school, or that a brace of children died after being shot in a school church, or how a gunman could take the coward shot in a church parking lot after marking Mass in the first week of school. It says something that I only wanted answers, needed to investigate. A hero story of a boy throwing himself onto a friend to shield him from bullets exploding the stained glass of a church, protecting him from the automatic fire piercing school windows with stigmata. Was he shot in the back because he truly greater loved a friend, laid down his life to cover him? Was he duck, duck, goose diving to safety and landed into a space occupied by a lap? Or was he simply, sadly, slugged in the back, collapsing into a better story? You'd get over it. The title is a quote from one of my former high school students, for Anna. Think of what we know, what science has told us of missing limbs and phantom pain. Fists still clenched decades after the shearing horror. Shrapnel buried in aged meat, inoperable without risking an artery's vital nicking, twisted with the slightest change in temperature. How rough hands clasped over mouths, fingers taut around throats, forearms, thighs, linger. The summer dilemma of hiding unfaded scars along wrists. Given all we know of how wounds are frost-heaved by cold memory, why would you ever think that I'd get over a little sister-sized hole in the center of my chest? One of my former students, we were having a conversation 2 or 3 years ago, and she was like, well, if I killed myself, like, my family would be sad about it, but you'd get over it eventually. And I just didn't have the words in the moment to, and it's inappropriate to just like strangle a child. Like, that's not okay. So I wrote to this poem as a way of processing it, and also gave it to her as a graduation present. And then she came back. I was like, why would you do this? She's in college right now. She's doing well. And I got a text message last week or so being like, I finally got into therapy and it's really good. And I'm like, let's go. I was going to say at the beginning, some of these are school poems, obviously. This is another poem the title is a quote. I was not going to read this, then I decided I was going to read it. I think a couple of people heard the original version of this over the summer, and this was literally, you heard a written by hand version of it. This is the more updated version of it. Cover your ears, it's going to be loud at the front end. Oh God, please stop! From the back of the class, his cry careens over the heads of the rest. Their stricken faces, jaws slack or furiously clenched, eyes dewy or attempting to shut out the assailant in my words. But I refuse. Continue explaining the lynching by car of James Byrd Jr., briefly mentioned in Rankin's The White Card, open on their desks. The event is presented as a turning point. Character development for Charles, a billionaire with Basquiat's defacement on his wall. A news story whose horror shook him into seeing that racism still existed in the enlightened, heady days of 1998. A details-oriented educator, I clarify why Charles was so troubled. Bird, 49, disabled, black, was walking home when three white men, one he thought a friend, had known his whole life, offered him a ride in a gray Ford pickup. Crushed between them, they forced him to remote woods, kicked and punched and baseball batted him in and out of consciousness, spray painted his face blacker, pissed and shat on him, retrieved a 24-foot-long chain from the truck bed, noosed it about his ankles, and dragged him for 1.5 miles. The FBI's autopsy determined he was conscious, trying to keep his upper body off of the road-rashing concrete, until their carefree swerving swung him into a culvert, which severed his right arm and head. Undaunted, they continued to drag his remainder for another 1.5 miles to the cemetery of a black church, where they mutilated and distributed his corpse to be found in time for the following morning's Sunday service. I tell my class this did not happen in a grainy black and white photo of the past. 81 pieces of Bird were jigsaw scattered through Jasper, Texas on June 7th in 1998, 2 weeks before I graduated from high school. That I am only 2 years older than they are now. I remind my stunned, sobbing, silent students that I am younger than their parents, who may send me emails asking why I would subject their children to these horrors from another time, who may, echoing Charles, echoing their children, echoing James Bird Jr., ask me to please stop. But the truck didn't, so I can't. I'll read one political poem, and then I'll read, I've been told I need to end things on like a happier note. I work on it. The first time. Also, I should say, I think this poem is a happier poem, but again, like, for those who have read one of my first full-length collection, the Colored Page, that was my first time like reading in front of people, and I had folks like come up to me, oh, hearing you read that poem was so different, like, it was humorous. I was like, I thought it was funny, but like, oh no, I thought it was just like black rage. I was like, oh, I guess 6 of this, half dozen of the other. The first time they told me to pray for him, pray for his success, that doing otherwise was like rooting against the pilot while sitting on the plane. If he crashes, we all go down. And such destructive thinking is the purview of progressives with the privilege of race and or wealth and or gender and or the ability to be unaffected by the minor inconvenience of someone else's cataclysm, like being forced to check a bag as your seatmate is tasered and dragged spasming unconscious down the aisle. They would then strain the metaphor, cite access to flawless flotation devices, parachutes, escape pods. This time I tell them, fuck it. Let the plane crash. Burn with all of us on it. Let the unfortunate survivors always remember what shook the plane, allowed smoke into the cabin, lit the drink carts on fire, blew bolts off the door, engulfed the fuselage in flames while trapped in a bathroom cell unable to reach a useless mass as the freefall began. Some might call this selfish. Affix the prior label of privilege upon my dark lapel. They forget our history. The many thousands gone under the sky, under the sea. Forgot how long we've been caught in the middle passage between every face of white rage since they dragged us here in chains. So let them try their hands at some race play, being treated like a nigger for 4 or 8 years. And then we'll see how quickly a change is going to come. This is just to say. I'm assuming all the poets in the room at some point read This Is Just to Say and then wrote their own version of it. This summer, I don't know. I was at the Eliot House in Gloucester doing a residency, and these two poems just sort of came out of somewhere. I'll blame the ghost of T.S. Eliot, even though he didn't write the original poem. This is just to say, I've eaten the latest passive-aggressive note you left in the office fridge. Your sarcastic missive about labeling, dating, and discarding food in a timely fashion because we are not, in fact, animals raised in a barn by mothers who don't work here. Yes, I meant eaten. I panicked, and it was the fastest way to protect you. I fear I was too late. No need to write another note in your black, all caps, Sharpie script. They got the message. I leave this on your desk to warn. Someone may have placed rabbit feces in your raisin and chocolate trail mix, toenail clippings in your shredded coconut flakes. Given your fondness for steak salads, be suspicious of the communal ranch dressing. Forgive them for being so petty and so cold. Don't ask, I don't know. And this last poem, I'll read the title twice. I don't know. An open letter to the guy in the next stall. Yeah. An open letter to the guy in the next stall. I get to do this with a straight face. It's a serious poem. Okay, wait. An open letter to the guy in the next stall. What are we doing? Plop, plop, fizz, fizz isn't only commercial relief from the 1970s. We are men, human, and this is common fare. Nothing coming out of us is a great mystery or an unimaginable feat, save perhaps in terms of quantity or consistency. What were we expecting? Potpourri scented with jasmine and lavender instead of the hot gas of deconstructed beef stew? Whole kernels of corn and peas, fibrous flecks of onion still in evidence? We didn't come here for romance. Can acknowledge the sound of wet socks repeatedly slapped against a rocky shore, ripple scattering gulls and brown trout? Why should either of us be embarrassed? Whether witness or culprit to the natural excretions that brought us here, or exchange silent apologies, eyes never meeting in the mirror should we simultaneously exit to wash hands that we won't shake. Even with the stench of lawmakers guarding bathroom access, can't we agree, regardless of skin color, or hat color, or stool? Straining to uphold an unhealthy social norm is un-American, when unbridled release is what God intended. In the name of self-love and decency, let us not give ourselves over to the prudish machinations of the repressed. Let us lean forward and hug our knees in midden consent. List sideways, lifting a cheek as needed, so unabashedly fire fecal cannons for effect. Let us unite and usher in an era of fully empty happiness, and make manifest the promise of the old passing away, for the boundless new to come. Thank you.